Lupin dismissed his foul mood soon after the incident. I saw moon and then was like, foul moon. Foul mood soon after the incident, returning to one of his hideouts to concentrate on business matters. I remember this place. He was alone and reading an order received from Spellbound. Professor James Moriarty proceeds to expand his influence in the organization. Eliminate him. Interesting. Who would want to eliminate Moriarty? Huh. So who's the leader of Spellbound if it's not Moriarty? Curiouser and curiouser. We're starting off with a deep mystery already. I'm just beginning this episode. Beneath this order was the location of his target. I finally got you, Professor Moriarty. But Lupin, you're a thief. You're not an assassin out for hire. Upon immediately committing its contents to memory, Lupin set fire to the order. Oh, revenge is a dish best served cold. Interesting. Plot thickens. That bastard who killed my mother and stole her treasure. You were her treasure, Lupin. You. The real story was not so vague as the one he'd shared with Emily. He knew, for instance, that his mother had infiltrated Spellbound on the hunt for information. Yet Professor Moriarty was aware, and he set a terrible trap to which she fell prey. And she, at her most vulnerable, had the necklace she was never seen without taken. In time, the injuries she sustained overcame her. I'll never forgive him. I'll take back her necklace and avenge her! The professor was a man as cautious as he was brilliant, a mastermind who made certain to never involve himself in criminal activity directly, and whatever indirect traces there happened to be were purged to dust. Lupin insisted, despite this, on tracking the man's location, and his persistence paid off. He learned that only Spellbound's highest authority would know of it. And to receive this information directly, he would have to earn it through a partnership. He despised the organization, immensely so, but the prize was simply too enticing to ignore. It once made me sick to my stomach to work with the organization responsible for Mama. How times change. And they must be desperate to make use of whoever they can. It didn't take long for their top dog to prefer sending me work directly. The one who ordered him to steal the photograph from the Whiteley household was the same one who now ordered him to murder Professor Moriarty. Who is in charge of this organization? Their communications had been solely through letters, and thus Lupin could only speculate to this person's identity, but he was a masterful speculator. I couldn't fathom why I was tasked with stealing something so innocuous at first, but now I know. Oh, the secrets a simple photograph can hide. Great, now you got me examining this for clues. What did I miss? What am I missing here? Bah, it's of no interest to me now. I've been waiting for this chance for too long, and it's finally here. Only after he confirmed what was left of the order was ashes. Only after he confirmed what was left of the order was ashes did he stand. There we go. Up till now, I've done everything my way. Stealing what I wanted. Pursuing beauty as I willed it. But this time things will be different. I shall avenge Maman. I will kill him with my bare hands.
You're in a rather passionate mood today. Shall I make you some sweet milk tea? You were always fond of that, weren't you?
I'll decline.
What were you doing in your mother's room?
Is that any of your concern?
You dearly loved your mother, though not as much as me, of course. When she wasn't here, You would wait in this room for her to return, even if you could barely keep your eyes open.
So he took Emily to his mom's old room in Holmes's route. Ugh, my heart.
She would tell me off for it every time. Why not sleep together with your son, she would scold.
Papa, I have no desire to reminisce with you. You speak of her memory so fondly, but you've never once sought revenge when there is revenging to be had. You told me to never pursue those who murdered her.
Yes, I most certainly did.
You loved her, didn't you? Why would you choose not to avenge her? Lupin, possessed by anger, slammed a fist onto a nearby table.
Because we are gentlemen thieves, as I have told you. We take many things, but the lives of others will never be amongst them. It is not for us to sully that way of life.
It's for our image, you say. Then that is your way, and I'm not like you. If it takes dirtying my hands to revenge those who killed Maman, then so be it. I'll do what I must. Because unlike you, I'm not a coward.
It may satisfy you now, but you dismiss the larger, very important picture. You forget, in the race to meet your terrible goal, that you have caused great pain to not one, but 2 women.
2?
One is your mother, who passed hoping that you would live a happy life. The other, why, she chases you in earnest, with all her heart. You know her name, of course.
She has nothing to do with me.
So you charm her, hurt her, and push her away, telling her that you refuse all intimacy? Sapristi! Does your mother ever look down in scorn from heaven? Mon fils, if you are afraid to love her, then treat her with care at the very least. Men who cause women such grief are loathsome creatures, be they young or old.
I believe I've heard enough of your nonsense for one day, Papa. Lupin then retired, the coldness of his statement ever pervading the room.
Why do I not avenge her, he asks. I don't blame him for the question. Yet I still wish to keep the one promise I made to her.
Man, Daddy Lupin is such a bro. I'm so glad to have him on my side. As recorded in his order, he set about for the designated hideout post-haste. It lacked the extravagancies of a typical mansion, enough that one might declare it plain upon first sight. There was no indication of importance, no hint that it housed the man to whom Lupin dedicated his hatred. There are iron bars over the windows, and the glass is the same strength as that used in the military. A guard at every entrance, I see. Now how am I to go about this? A man approached the entrance. He is walking with his center of gravity tipped to the right. He has a pistol in the right pocket of his coat if I had to chance a guess. Must be one of Moriarty's men. Perfect. Lupin crept forwards in fleet-footed fashion just as the man reached for the door handle. Ah! He was swift as the coursing river. With but a single chop to the back of the neck, the man was unconscious, completely unaware of the entire incident. Now, if you don't mind, I should like to borrow your face. And so Lupin began to study the face of this man on the ground.
What? An intruder? Yes, he was trying to sneak into the building when I caught him. Good God, you certainly said about him right. His face is a bloody mess. He wouldn't shut up about wanting to see the professor, so I stuffed that in his mouth. What should we do? Take him to see the professor if he wants to so badly. Huh? Me? You'd be right to be disturbed by that basement, but it must be done. Go on, then. Get it over with. Go! Oh, to hell with it. Come on! I thought you'd been given enough of a thrashing for one man, but you move about like a fish out of water. Can you not struggle so much? Just shut it. Calm down.
I believe we are underling A. Beneath the mansion was a vast space. Yes, a space. It was a vast space. Why can I not talk today? A vast space of drab, solemn walls and pillars. We finally get to see the man himself. Even if you're not as important as I thought you were, you're still important to me.
Is my guess this man lying here?
Oh, look at him! He's got like a cyborg eye. Or just a very cool eye patch. Alright, 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 alright. Things are getting interesting. At last, Lupin heard the music he so desired. At last, the slow groaning of wheels transformed, by his own years-long anticipation, into an a cappella fit to grace a theater. At last, there he was. The sharp features of a clever man. A single eye that pierced enough for two. Rigid posture that coerced supremacy in a wheelchair than the tallest of men. At last. One of Spellbound's most powerful men, Professor James Moriarty.
Yes, Mr. Moriarty, sir. Afraid I had to knock him out, as he resisted quite heavily on the way down here.
He is a fool, then. You would have thought the pain he has clearly endured would be enough to keep him quiet. That is the idea behind pain, wouldn't you agree?
Very much, sir.
Ah, and speaking of fools, I've heard something rather interesting. Permit me to share it with you. It is that there is not just this intruder here, but a second rat as well. And he is in this very room.
It was upon his words that the basement became swarmed with the professor's subordinates.
I've known for a long time that you were after me, Lupin, Jr.
All at once they raised their firearms. How kind of you to greet me with such drama. I did not know till now that monsters could be gentlemen also, Professor Moriarty. Lupin had no more need of his disguise, and quickly removed it to face his enemy as he was.
You have this many guns pointed at you, and yet you do not concede. Why, it would be a waste of your spirit to riddle you with bullets. Answer me, Lupin Jr. Will you become my subordinate over theirs? I will make use of you in ways no one else could possibly conceive.
If you already know why I'm here, then you know that your offer is so unwelcome that I'm liable to vomit where I stand if these talks continue. I came to end your life. Spellbound no longer has need of you.
Bah! I've long expected they would try to have me dealt with, fearing my influence. And I knew you would come to revenge me for the sake of your mother.
Well, that saves me a lengthy explanation. You're ready for me to kill you, then?
I only ask that you not collapse before you deal me my cards. Much work has been done to set this stage, and it would be a shame for the curtain to come down too quickly. Dance, boy. For my enjoyment, dance.
Oh, I will make this a performance worth your while. Guns fired whilst Lupin kicked the ground to propel himself upwards. Not quick enough! He evaded bullets through lithe acrobatics that were second nature to him. And to counter, he threw playing cards, knocking weapons out of hands and sending them clattering across the ground.
What? He's so nimble!
Where are you even looking? Only an amateur would lose sight of his prey. If you cannot trust your eyes, then perhaps you would be better off without them.
What? Gah!
Lupin flicked his wrist to furnish the men with several more deadly cards. They missed, barely and quite intentionally. Each one raised hairs above its target's eyes before impaling the wall. Only kidding. You'll want those if you want to gaze upon anything beautiful again. Such as these. He next reached into his coat and revealed not cards, but roses shaded a perfect red. He's gonna tuxedo mask them.
Ah! Where did these come from?
That's a trade secret, I'm afraid. Oh, and by the by, their thorns contain a paralytic agent. Just the slightest touch will result in it coursing through your body, so take care with them.
Ah! My body! I can't move!
One man fell, then another, the third, the fourth, the fifth. It was an elegant line of men subdued by a thief whose performance was as dangerous as it was magnificent. Not one could overcome these theatrics, and so they all lay whilst partnered with a single rose. I'm waiting for this butler of his to just, like, throw kunai knives into our body or something. I'm just like, ah. He's just very chill about the entire thing.
Well, you have proven yourself an agile man. That's one thing I won't be able to imitate. But are you agile enough, I wonder, for this?
No! Lupin moved at the sound of a blast that could have ruptured his ears. Splinters from the pillars scattered in all directions. That has to be a revolver shotgun. They spray bullets in a radical pattern that allows one to spread their fire over a wide area. Any one shot isn't particularly deadly, but I'll certainly be in trouble if I'm hit by one of them. This is the first time I've met someone who stores shotguns in his wheelchair. What a queer man you've turned out to be, Professor.
I was an avid hunter once upon a time. Once you've got the taste for the art of cornering and hunting down prey, you cannot go long without craving another bite.
Your palate is uniquely awful, then.
This has dragged on, Lupin Jr. What will it be? Will you let yourself die by my hand, or will you lap from it like a dog?
I shall humbly pass on both. A gentleman thief steals his prey. I have no intention to become anyone else's. Lupin jumped before Professor Moriarty's revolver shotgun. 1 second, for there wasn't two to spare before the trigger was pulled. Lupin threw a card.
Ah!
The card struck the weapon, sending it across the floor.
Ha 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 ha! Why did you target my gun? You could have gone for the head. Having second thoughts.
What are you, Thanos? You should have gone for the head. Snap. Not at all. I just didn't want your filthy blood on one of my cards. Lupin retrieved it and pointed it directly as the man remained smiling, unmoving, unfearing. The thief despised this caustic smile. Still, if you cannot wait to die, then I shall hurry up and get it over with.
Ah, do your eyes entice? It truly would be a waste for you to end your life as a lowly thief. Whether you want to admit it or not, you're already one of us. One of the fallen who lurks beneath the earth. We've delayed this long enough. Go on and kill me. That's what you were so willing to distort your own ideals and sully your hands for, wasn't it?
He gripped the shotgun so tightly that his aim grew unsteady.
Ha! Why the hesitation? You seek to avenge your mother, don't you? Was your will always so flimsy? Pull the trigger! Sully your hands!
Sully them just as I've sullied mine. Do it!
Don't you dare put Lupin in the same league as the likes of you! That couldn't be. Lupin! You can't kill him! Don't commit murder!
Emily! Why are you here?
Your father told me where you would be. He's been investigating Spellbound all this time, too. I knew my girl was gonna be here to save her boy. I'm so proud of her. After hurrying into the mansion's basement, I charged in front of Lupin to keep him from his target.
Get out of my way, Emily!
I won't.
I told you to get out of my way!
And I told you I won't!
Then you mean to stop me?
Of course! We're going to hand Professor Moriarty to Scotland Yard. They'll be here any minute.
Not a chance! I'm going to murder him where he stands! Now move! If you don't.
If she doesn't, then what? Is your need to murder me so great that you would shoot her to get to me?
No! Emily!
The crackle of a bullet deafened my ears, and then my body leant to one side. I couldn't support myself, collapsing upon a terrible pain in my right leg.
Fear not, Miss Whiteley. That you feel pain is proof you still live. You have your uses to me after all.
I was clutched by my hair, my head lifted from the floor. The pain that came with this, impossible to describe. It felt as though my neck were ready to snap. It was so instantaneous, like lightning through the spine, there and gone, and a scream clawed at my throat. But I bit my lip. Even when my every nerve were to scream, I had to refuse. My leg had a pulse of its own. It throbbed, 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 every single instance jetting through me in a violent rhythm.
No one said I had a single shotgun hidden on my person. It doesn't pay to make assumptions, Lupin Jr. I see your weaknesses as well as I see your face. Why did you go pale when I took her as a hostage? Weren't you going to kill me? How very boring. You're a fool just like your mother.
What?
Does this look familiar to you?
You really kept it all this time, and just was like, I should have this tonight on my person. Professor Moriarty revealed to Lupin a necklace with a pale pink gemstone embedded into it.
You have it!
A necklace? Is that his mother's?
Had she been willing to serve me, she would not have died. Such a pity. Such a terrible pity. I will only ask one more time. Do you have no interest in serving me?
If you want to tell me I've sullied my hands or fallen into darkness, then by all means. It's the truth. But you stole something precious from me. Polluted it. And now you've hurt a woman truly important to me. I'll never forgive you!
There was no tremor to Lupin's gun this time. It was steadied, direct, fueled by a kind of lust that so effortlessly haunts a man who longs revenging another. No! He's going to do it! Stop, Lupin! I'm all right. I'm all right, so please don't kill him.
Shut up, Emily!
I'm not going to shut up! Shouting was unbearable. It sent new anguish down my leg whenever I tested my body with movement, but I had to speak. Don't stoop so low for a man like him! Do you think I could accept that, after everything you've put me through? Aren't you a gentleman thief? A gentleman thief would never throw away his sense of beauty. I will never accept you doing that. Never in my life. A man as selfish and arrogant as you've always been can't lie to himself either. You can try lying to me again and again, but you can't fool yourself. And if you stray from your path, I'll hate you.
A question then, Emily. Does that mean if I don't, you will love me?
That's a... I didn't know what to say. Do we have to do this in front of Moriarty? He released an easy laugh, one that made him so familiar to me. This was the Lupin I knew.
Professor Moriarty, my mother was a spy who thought to steal Spellbound's secret, wasn't she?
Indeed. A stupid woman who didn't know her place.
Yet you still carry a stupid woman's pendant when you could have long disposed of it. Why is that?
What are you trying to say?
You were fond of her, weren't you? Very fond. Like a child starved of love.
What? Ah!
Too slow.
Lupin discarded the shotgun from one hand and chanced to knock Professor Moriarty to the ground with a playing card. He met with success. Ah! Before I could move on my own, Lupin scooped me into his arms and held me preciously. Aw, thanks, Boo.
I must apologize, but I will be taking her necklace back. Her too, naturally.
Let me look at this. He got Mama's necklace and his girl. A true gentleman thief. Held just as preciously in his hand was the necklace Professor Moriarty teased moments ago. When did he take that? Both of the villain's sleeves were now fastened at the wrist by Lupin's cards. No amount of pulling could separate them. I'm so glad that butler of his is just staring stupidly in the background and doing not a damn thing. Like, I could help him, but then I wouldn't be able to stare.
Huh. Do you think you've won?
I hate problems I can do nothing about, Professor Moriarty, so I have dispelled all interest in what happens to you in Spellbound from my mind. But remember this. I'm not going to be bound by anything anymore. That includes you and your organization.
Then you've given up on revenge.
You're a miserable man, Professor. My mother was a beautiful woman of endless charm. Anyone would want her. But unfortunately for you, you could never have her, for her heart had long...
Yes, Dad Lupin!
That's right! It had belonged to me! Ah!
A grand interruption arrived at the scene and cast himself to take center stage. He was tall, handsome, and aggressive by his first act of sending the professor across the room with an intense strike. Indeed, it took one gentleman thief to eclipse another.
Hello, Emily. I believe some amendments are in order.
Maurice? Question mark.
The first thing is that Maurice would be the name of my father. As for my true name, well, I'm certain you've heard it before. The second is that I'm no gardener. Not so, for I am an elegant, graceful, thrill-seeking, treasure-hunting gentleman thief. The third is that I may have slipped that he would make a terrible lover. But I, Arsène Lupin, must reveal my son as the most passionate lover in the land.
You love to see a dad support his son in his romantic endeavors. You love to see it.
Papa, must you barge in here and spout nonsense?
Now, there's no need to be serious. Besides, if you have time to furnish me with cold glares, then you're better off using it to escort your young lady away from here.
But Papa!
Please, your dear Papa has an engagement with this man that cannot wait.
His mouth formed a laugh so broad it creased at the edges, and yet his eyes were frighteningly cold like steel.
Try to keep your wits about you.
Oh, they're as sharp as ever. Now, run along! Don't keep dear Emily waiting any longer.
Very well, then.
Lupin? Lupin held me more carefully than before.
If I may have the final word, Papa.
I know. I know where that Scotland Yard is coming. I won't let my anger get
I'm not worried about that. I want you to stop calling her name as if you're intimately acquainted. It infuriates me.
She's my girl. His parting words were spat through a mumble before carrying me away.
Dear, dear. He would make that face all the time when I took his mother from him. And he made off with her necklace. Fearful what the future has in store for him. But that cheek certainly comes from his mother. Indeed, he is our son. If you think my capture will mark the end of Spellbound, then you are mistaken. Believe I am gone all you like. I will return each time to the underworld. Will you now? Then rest assured I shall be present to get in your way every time you return. With men like you running this city from the shadows, how are good people meant to appreciate all the beauty life has to offer? My beloved would never have wanted to live in such a dull world.